There are many ways to create a new module for working under the vendor directory. All of them share the following steps. First, we create a module repository. This can be a local folder or a remote or local Git repository. Then the second step is to create a new module directory with a composer.json file in that module repository. And the third step is to add that repository to the root composer.json file. And then we can install the module with Composer. So we never create a folder manually directly within vendor. That is Composer's job. After the stub has been installed by Composer, then we can complete the new module within vendor. In this video, we will use a local directory as the module repository, because this is the quickest way to get started. And it also can be combined with keeping the module source in a remote repository like GitLab or GitHub, so we aren't taking away any options. To keep our local module repositories organized together, let's create a local source directory. You can name it whatever makes sense for you. Now we can create a directory for our module within local source. I'll call it mage2tvempty. Now the module repository directory is ready to be added to the root composer.json file. We shouldn't edit the file manually, so let's use the composer config command to do that. All this did was it added a new repository section to the composer.json file, right here. The next step is to create a composer.json file for our module within our directory. Then it can be installed by Composer. Every core module has a composer.json, so let's pick any module, copy over the composer.json file and adjust it as needed. Okay, so first the package name, that's important. The part in front of the slash is the vendor name, and here we will use our vendor name, in this example mage2tv, in lowercase. And then the package name after the vendor name, after the slash here, should always start with module dash. That's a convention Magento uses to indicate something is a module. And then after the dash we use our module name in lowercase, so in our case, empty. Description NA, not applicable, that's fine. Let's get rid of all the dependencies because our empty module hasn't got any yet. As the PHP version constraints, I want to use PHP 7.1 and PHP 7.2. PHP 7.0 isn't really supported anymore anyway. The type has to be Magento 2 module. Now for the version, we have to specify it here, and we can pick any dummy version, so 001 for example. We have to specify it here because we are using a path type composer repository. If we were using Git, we could specify the version with a tag. In fact, we should be doing that if we were using Git. For the license, I prefer to use the BSD 3 license for open source work. In the autoload section, we do have to specify the registration PHP file. But in the PSR4 autoloading section, we have to specify our namespace prefix, which is our vendor name and module name, so mage2tv empty. In camel case, so not lowercase. Finally, we can tell Composer to install our module by using the package name that we specified up here. So the package was symlinked from local source made to tvempty. We can now also find our module repository right here. So because this is a symlink, any file we create will be seen twice by the IDE. Probably it's a good idea to exclude one of our directories so the source code navigation works properly. We can choose either one. It depends on if you want to edit your source code within local source or within vendor. I'll exclude local source for now. And now we can complete the empty module. Two files still need to be added to complete it, the etc module XML file and a registration.php file. I won't go into details about the purpose of each of these files. That will be covered again by a later video. Let's just copy one of each from a core module and adjust them as needed. Let's start with the module XML file. The module XML file goes into a subdirectory called etc within our module. We can get rid of this here. We have to adjust the module name to our module identifier. The setup version is required. I tend to start at 001. Please note, this should not be kept in sync with the version we specified for Composer. This setup version has a different purpose. Please also note that from Magenta version 2.3 onward, the setup version attribute will be deprecated, but up until then it is required. We don't need to specify any sequence here because our module currently has no dependencies. That's the module XML. Now let's copy registration.php. The registration.php is directly in a module directory. Again, we can get rid of the comment. Let's adjust our module identifier. And I like importing the class and moving everything into a single line. For me, this is more readable. And with this, we have a fresh new module under vendor waiting to be filled with functionality.